Chapter 14. Horner wiped the back of his eyes with his hands. If they didn't quit soon, he'd fall asleep in the goddamn car, he believed. He glanced at his partner, who was sipping a cup of hot coffee. They had finally stopped for lunch. Horner folded up the cup and the napkin his hamburger had come in. Food wasn't what he'd wanted, but food was what he'd got. "I got one more idea I'd like to see out, Jerry, before we go in," Fisher stated as he finished with his food. "What's that?" Horner asked, not too interested in what his partner had in mind. It had been too many hours without a stop, and now all he could see were red spots in front of his eyes. "That apartment Jim's wife told us about, the one she said Sandra picked up the clothes at. I'd like to check that one out before we call it a day," Fisher answered as he glanced up at his partner. He knew the young man was tired, but they were too close to ending it. He could feel it. The case was about to bust open. Horner didn't feel like that at all. He believed the case could go on for days or weeks. It depended on how well the girl hid out. If she had found an apartment that they couldn't locate, it was good and possible. From all of her actions, she seemed to be smart. As if he had read Horner's mind, Fisher spoke up. "The way I see it, she didn't have time to find another apartment. Either she's jammed up in a motel, or she's gone back to one of her old places. There's nothing else she could do. With a wounded man, she hasn't too many chances." "You're right about that," Horner agreed reluctantly. "But if she's in a motel, the only chance we have is someone picking up the license number on the car. You've got all the patrol cars checking out all the close motels, so it's just a matter of time. But if by chance she's got a friend with a house, we're in trouble. It might be a week or more before this case breaks." "Yeah, I know all that," Fisher answered harshly. "But I just don't think it's going to go like that. No. They're young kids, and I don't think they know many people like that. Plus, the fact that he's wounded. That's the big issue here. With him bleeding like hell, she has to be real damn careful where she takes him. You can bet on that part of it. As much as this girl cares about him, she's not going to take too many chances." "I was thinking about what that guy's sister told us," Horner began. "If her brother hadn't stuck this girl up, I doubt if any of this crap would have happened. I guess that guy Chink must have blown his top when he saw his woman all beat to hell and back." Fisher nodded his head as he started the motor and pulled out of the drive-in restaurant. "Yeah, I think from his actions he must have cared quite a bit for the girl. He killed everybody involved, as far as I can see." As the men drove back across town, they talked the case over. They had just about put it completely together. "The more I think about it, the surer I am that she doubled back to the apartment that she moved out of," Fisher said, nodding his head as he spoke. And the more he talked about it, the more sure Horner became. He began to get the feeling that overcame him whenever he felt himself closing in on his prey. "It fits the picture all right," he stated. Sandra finally got Chink to fall asleep peacefully. She waited until she was sure he was sound asleep before she got up. She slipped on her pants, then went into the kitchen to see if she could find something for them to eat. She prayed that she wouldn't have to go out to the store. She searched and found some cold lunch meat and a bottle of pop. It would have to do. She fixed 2 sandwiches, but common sense told her Chink wouldn't be able to eat his. How nice it would be if they were on the highway, maybe going to New York or someplace. She sat down and ate her sandwich while she daydreamed. When she finished eating, she got up and glanced out the window. Sandra froze in her tracks as she watched the white man with his colored partner get out of their car. Cop was written all over them. As she watched them, they walked over to Sandra's car and opened the door. The 2 men talked amongst themselves for a few moments, unaware that the young girl upstairs in the window never took her eyes off them. "Well, Jerry," Fisher said, "looks like we found what we came after." "Yep," Horner replied, There's no doubt about it now. They're holed up here all right. You think we should call for help? I don't think we'll need it, Jerry. The guy's been wounded, so the girl shouldn't give us too much trouble. She might be even glad to see us. That way, she can get her man to the hospital. Horner shrugged. He was thinking about the string of dead bodies that had led them down the couple's trail. If you say so, Fish, but I'd feel a lot better off with a little more help, he said honestly. Okay, then, Fisher replied. If you feel that way, go on and call in. It won't take but a few minutes before we'll have more than enough reinforcements. For a brief second, Horner felt ashamed, but then the vivid recollection of the last dead body came to him. He walked back to their car and called in. When he finished, he joined his partner on the sidewalk. Fisher wasn't going to wait for help. Hell, man, if you feel too frightened, Jerry, I'll take care of it myself, he said as he went up the steps. Before they had reached the stairway, Sandra had wheeled around and run into the bedroom. She glanced around wildly, looking for the pistols she had laid down. Snatching up one, she ran back to the window. She waited until they were on the stairs, then broke the glass with the barrel. She quickly raised the gun and squeezed off a shot. The sound of the breaking glass had been all the warning the two detectives needed, though. Both men had jumped over the railing, back down to the ground at the sound of the glass breaking. The shots had only given speed to their move. Jerry Horner wiped the sweat from his brow. He glanced over at his partner. "Hey, Fish," he called out with a smile. "I ain't seen you move that fast in I don't know how long." Fisher had to smile back at his partner. Both men had moved so quickly that there hadn't been time for any kind of warning between them. "Yeah, it goes like that at times. I wonder who's handling that pistol up there," Fisher said, stroking his chin. Horner only shook his head. "I don't know, but it seems as if they don't intend to give up easy." "I'll tell you what I want you to do for me, Jerry," Fisher began. "I need a screen so that I can make it up those steps. So when I count to 3, you pump a few shots into that window so that whoever is standing there will have to duck back. That will give me all the time I need to make it up the stairs." Before the men could go into action, a patrol car pulled up. "Wait a minute, Fish," Horner called out. "Wait until them boys get over here. Then we can both run up the stairs together." The sound of 3 fast shots came to the waiting men. The patrolmen ducked back down behind their car. "You better yell out to them so they'll know what to do. It looks like our help is pinned down," Fisher stated. "Slip around that way," he said, pointing out where a garage was built under the apartment building. "Go through there and give them their instructions, and I'll wait until you get back." Upstairs, Sandra stared at the gun in her hands. She didn't want to accept the truth, that she was out of bullets. She tossed the gun down and walked into the kitchen. When she returned, she went to the bed and sat down on it beside Chink. The noise of the shooting had awakened him, and his eyes were bright as he stared at her. "Hey, honey. The man done found us already, huh?" he asked as he tried to hold her hand. "Yeah, Daddy, they're outside," she answered honestly as she tried to hold back the tears. "I only wish that it hadn't went like this, Sandra. There was so much we could have did together." She only shook her head. What was there to say? In a few minutes, the police would be inside the apartment. It was finished. All over. Sandra picked up his hand and kissed it. "Honey, remember how peaceful it was the day we first walked home from school? The birds were singing, the sun was hot on our backs, and you were so bashful." Chink smiled up at her. "I remember that. And much more, honey. I remember every time we were together. It's something that nobody can take from us. You'll always have your memories, Sandra. Keep 'em and think about me sometimes." The tears flowed down her cheeks unchecked. "How can I ever forget you, Chink?" She leaned over and kissed him. "You've given me the happiest times of my life, Daddy. I'll never be able to get you out of my mind. Never." He smiled at her tenderly. "Remember your promise, honey. You ain't gonna let them take me out of here alive, baby. I don't want to die in no prison. 'Cause if they get me to a hospital, they gonna do their damnedest to keep me living." The sound of breaking glass came to them as the police shot out the front window. Under the hail of bullets, Fisher and Horner ran up the steps. Both men hugged the side of the building, breathing hard. "Damn, I'm getting out of shape," Fisher said, breathing hard. Horner glanced over at his partner and grinned. He knew how the older man felt running up those steps. Expecting to be shot at was something he could do without. The men inched up to the door and then stood on each side of it. Fisher raised his pistol and shot the lock off. Then Horner raised his foot and kicked the door in. And as soon as it flew open, both men jumped into the apartment, each hitting the floor on a different side of the door. They glanced around the living room in astonishment. Then Horner pointed out the empty gun on the floor. Fisher crawled over to the gun and picked it up. He broke the gun open, then showed it to his partner so that Horner could see that the gun was empty. Both men glanced at the closed bedroom door. Sandra knew that the policemen were in the living room. She glanced down at Chink. She could see the fear in his eyes as he stared up into her face. She leaned down and kissed him, and as she held him close, he tried to put his arms around her. But it took too much of his strength. He dropped his arms back on the bed. When Sandra finished kissing him, she raised up suddenly. The knife she kept concealed in her pants outfit flashed once in the afternoon sunlight as she brought it down quickly. She struck him in the chest, then pulled the knife out and struck again. And he closed his eyes. "You don't ever have to worry about them locking you up no more, Daddy," she said quietly, and let the knife drop from her hand. She leaned over and began to sob, and when the bedroom door flew open, she didn't even bother to glance up. The two officers entered the room cautiously. They watched the couple on the bed warily. The sight was one that neither man would ever forget. Sandra neither glanced up at the men nor acknowledged them. She continued to lie at the side of her man, crying deep sobs that seemed to come from the bottom of her soul. From where they stood, they couldn't tell if she was hurt or not. Her arms and the white blouse she wore were saturated with blood. "Don't worry, Daddy," they heard her say in a husky whisper. "You're free now, honey. They'll never lock you up again." As they moved nearer the bed, Fisher noticed her hand fumbling around in the bedsheets. It was the only warning they had. She moved so fast that she almost caught them unaware. Her hand came up, clutching the knife she had used. Blood still dripped from the blade. There was a blur of motion as she attempted to drive the dripping blade into her own frail chest. But Fisher moved fast. He grabbed her from behind as his partner watched in surprise. There was a brief struggle before he could take the knife from her. Then all at once, she crumpled up and fell on the side of the bed next to her lover. Though tears ran down her cheeks, there was no sound. Her grief was hers, and hers alone. Whether she was tried for his death or not didn't make any difference to her now. All that mattered was that her man was free. He was free at last.